last week was slow. I mean, good thing, took the week off from doing the watch lists and the videos, basically said, hey, taking the kiddo to the beach, school's getting ready to start up, but it's the end of summer. Everybody's like, oh, penny stocks are slow, OT slow. Even small caps as a whole are pretty slow. There's a few that are running, but, the market's pulling back as a whole as well. SPY hit, yearly highs, and now it's kind of sending downtrend. So we're going to cover a bunch of stocks today, all the stocks that you guys put in the watch list, and some are in here that I was like, wow, this thing looks pretty good. So I love doing this every week. It provides good value, for me, for everybody watching, that way we can kind of collaborate and say, this could be a really good runner going into this month. This has this coming, especially with Twitter now, it's so bogged with just so much junk, subscribe to this, I need views for this. Like, we need to create a community saying that way we can kind of focus and hone in on these things. But we actually have a lot to cover today. I didn't think there was going to be that many, but lo and behold, there's quite a few. So if you have any questions during the video, definitely put them down into the comments so we can check it out. But let's go ahead and jump into the video. All right, so let's go pound through this list. First up, we have Tradeify, which he picked bonds and kegs, which we're not going to talk about those today. Oddly enough, bonds made a pretty good move last week. I saw a couple PRs come through, and it came from 0008 to 1415s. So if you would have grabbed bottom on that, you probably would have hit almost 100%. But kegs, it's basically no bid right now. Not much to talk about that. They are growing revenue and so forth, but it's hard to trade when it has constant dilution. Angry Red picked GMPR, EPAZ, HIRU, which we'll cover. Cash picked SRNW, BLQC. Of course, Tigers. Ori, there's 12 PR posts, nonstop. Not going to cover that today. Looked at it and I was like, oh, geez, this thing, it's just endless. Hey, we're up listed in NASDAQ in like 2092. EPAZ, GMPR, IGPK. My buddy 2-3, RNVA, also not going to cover that because it's no bid, basically untradeable. SFIO, as far as Justin, we'll cover that one. We got these towards the end. CVAT, good one. Caffey just had a nice tweet on Friday. Eternal says, my go-away fund. SIPC, UCPA, SRNW again, ACGX, HIRU. We'll kind of go through the list. More of the OTC, money, ARO. So, this is more or less going to be what we do weekly. I'll kind of sift in some other videos throughout that, but basically say, hey, look, we need to band together. Twitter, stock twits, it's all just kind of bogged down, like I said. So, it's good to kind of watch this and say, hey, this could be a good one because it's getting volume. It has news coming. We have a lot of ASTA. I did include these two small cap picks from Stock Picks NYC. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So this one was not on the list. I'm going to cover this one probably sometime next week. It's NUGN. It's definitely one I want to start accumulating. I actually grabbed a little bit on Friday because this thing is getting torched right now. But massive revenue. They're talking about possible 10 acquisitions coming. And then I think it's an old shareholder or a funder or, I'm not exactly sure. I asked somebody from the IR team to look into it for me and see how many shares are left because accumulation actually looks pretty good. But, you could see it's just getting destroyed. And I know there's a lot of people that are really unhappy about this one, but the opportunity for somebody who's not in or just getting in at this ground floor around 01, could be huge. I mean, this thing traded 03, 04, 05, 7, 10, 12, 18. And, they're positive. They have very communicative and everything. So I'm definitely going to be looking at this one going forward. We're not going to cover too much today. So we have ACGX, which, have, let's see, Joel covered this one, and we talked about this one briefly, and he had pointed this out a few days ago, saying, let me give you a hint. He saw this coming 2 months ago, and he said, go ahead and read the whole DD thread. So if you want to follow him, check out this thread. But it looks like we might see a PR coming up that they've received some interest in the Wayne property and negotiating to potentially sell it before end of the year for a good profit. So if they can actually take that profit, move it into, their other assets as well, which, he kind of talks about here. But, Joel, great guy. Definitely look at his DD as well. But this thing, the way it's been trading, it looks great. It's kind of curled up through here. It's starting to make this channel and then breaking down a little bit. But, it seems to have a channel coming between 30 and 40 here. And, Doesn't look like too much as far as dilution. Accumulation's pretty good. But company loves to be active. They have a couple different Twitters, and this thing has hit 50 cents plus before. But this thing, like I said in the last video, if shareholders get behind this, I mean, as far as OTC, whoever, it doesn't really matter. The float is so tiny that you could push this thing to dollars, like without question. So that's a good one, like it. EPAZ, we've covered this one a lot. They've been very active, and I'll put a post up here by Stock Pop. And let me see their latest tweet. They said EPAZ is aiming to get many updates out in the next few weeks, including a JV, joint venture, I don't know with what, U.S. Army Medical, and a major government presentation. A press release will be issued next week. So they said this on Friday. So look for an EPAZ press release this week coming out. But like I said, they're very active. They love to chat. And, this thing, that's why I really like this one. A lot of people are like, oh, I don't like EPAZ, it's diluting. So they do have, so you'll see OTCN sometimes on the ask. They do have some dilution, but it's more controlled. It isn't like they're just destroying it. But look at the moves this thing has made this year, just from February to March. And that's why everybody says, oh, the OTC's dead. It's going to zero, sell everything. Kind of reminds me of Rudy, who's a YouTube collector. But they said the same thing back in February. Back in March, OTC was dead. And then you had this stock, which right here went 003 to 02, 2 cents. It ran literally, I think it even might have been under 003, but it literally ran 1,000% over the course of a couple of months. So when you get in these swings and they provide value and they aren't diluting, a lot, because it seems lately that all OTCs are diluted. You see OTCN everywhere. But personally, I like it. When we talk about NUGN, it's like the opportunity to get some of these at bargain basement prices is crazy. So as you can see, EPAZ, we've covered it a lot, but it's been putting in these wicks and it's starting to curl back up. So if it can break through this 50 right here, this I think it's 0044, 42, somewhere in that range. It's a little choppy as far as accumulation, but if you draw a line all the way straight down, so we're right at it. So they do have news coming this week. They talked about a lot of updates over the next couple of weeks. So if we can break into these fives, this thing can go. Not a lot of volume towards the end of the summer in OTC, which is expected. Everybody's on vacation. Kids going back to school and so forth. So there's a lot I'm keeping my eye on. CDSG is another one that kind of got beaten down under 04, and that thing's ran to 20 cents, and it has a lot coming to the pipeline. Like I don't know about you guys, but I will be making money, as far as going into fall, because I'm going to look for the good setups, the potential, find these bargain basement prices on these stocks that everybody hates, and some people are bagged 80%, but you're not. You have the chance to get in at ground floor. So that's why I like doing these videos. It's like, hey, look at this. This thing's beaten down. Love it. And then here is actually the post from Stock Pop. He puts out this huge DD thread, and this is all just from August, where they're talking about how they're getting with major oil companies to use their drones, the financing for drones, and then they're talking about their revenue increase and how that has to do with some AI business software. 6 subs, and EPAZ many updates over the next few weeks, as we talked about, in a government presentation. So we don't know who the government presentation's with, but they did say U.S. Army Medical, which is very cool. So I don't know if they'll be carrying in supplies, drone supplies, or what. But the potential of this thing, if they could just, if the dilution stops and there's none, this thing is ripping faces. So sorry for the go ahead there. So we'll get into the next one, HHRU. I really like this one down here. Just looking at the chart, it did have pretty big news, but if you look at this channel, it's been trading at between 001 to 0018 to 002. If you get it down here at 666, 777, they had mentioned, kind of go through here. They're very active. They did file to increase the AS, which a lot of people were not happy with. But they said they need to convert convertible debt to preferred shares, to preferred stock. So basically, the only way they're going to be able to do that is they had to increase the AS. And then if they can, all their convertible debt, they can increase it to preferred shares. Obviously, it'll increase the share structure, the size, but it'll be locked up for 12 months. But, they put a lot of good stuff. They talked about, hey, here's our contract. We're going to be doing this. We're expanding into this. So definitely follow the Twitter. They're very passionate. So sometimes they get a little mad when people are just beating them down. But they can't really do anything about the share price. It is what it is. OTC is kind of slow. BLQC. So we talked about this one a little bit last week. I didn't really dig into it too much, but I just looked at where it went in the past few months, and I remember seeing it was like 40, 50 cents. So I was like, okay, I'll take a look at this. But, as you can see here, where it was at highs around 40 cents, kind of got beaten down. Based on all the red candles, I'm going to guess it has some either conversions, some selling, some dilution, which, like I said, welcome to OTC, a surprise. But, came up here, wicked, and it's been kind of following this trend, as far down here. But look down here, what is this? This is under a 0.5 range. So it looks like it's double, triple bottoming down this area. And then just recently, when they did say they were going to have news and updates, it ran 12 cents. So if you can get this thing at 5 cents, 6 cents, and then I'll kind of point over their Twitter. They've been talking about their shift of focus, and where's the little ant boxes? So they have ant box, but basically it looks like it's Bitcoin mining, and they're expanding. They've been getting funds, but they've been saying, get ready for the future of BLQC. We're working tirelessly behind the scenes to bring you the next generation of mining technology. Stay tuned for updates coming soon. And then thank you for the patience. We're eagerly waiting MinerSet's 2-year audited financials for review so we can proceed despite the wait. We're staying positive, committing to making this merger a success. So it looks like, I don't know if the audit's done. I haven't dug too much into it. But, they've been saying, we're thrilled to announce we'll be sharing weekly progress photos, on the projects. That was August 1st. So I'm guessing this might be a project photo. But then again, exciting things are in the works at BLQC. Stay tuned for updates and news about our latest endeavors. Your support keeps us growing. So it looks like they're going to have news soon. They're very active, and getting it down to double, triple bottom when it was 40 cents. It could be a really good move, really good trade. And then just looking at their balance sheet, they have more in assets than their market cap currently. So if they can kind of turn off the tap a little bit, just like I said, looking at these red candles. But either way, if you're a trader, you're longing it, whatever, 40 cents, 17 cents, 12 cents, getting it down here could be a good opportunity. So keep an eye on that one. ASTA, company's doing it right. They said PRs are coming every single week, and they have been dropping them. They got the $1.5 million from early stage investors, non-dilutive, and then they basically said, hey, this is our commitment to shareholders. And then coming up next week, made strides in legal compliance and exciting business prospects. Next week's PR will begin a string of long-awaited business revelations. Stay tuned for game-changing updates. So, if you are an ASTA shareholder, this week could be really exciting. Let's see what they want to bring out and see what the press releases follow. SDRC. So I know Sonny's been on this one because when we used to do the weekly spaces, he'd always talk about SDRC and how it's going to be, I don't know if this is the one he talked about having a buyout. But, I've been kind of following it a little bit lately. And then, S. Farrelly's here. He's a pretty good guy to follow as well. He plays some good stuff. But, they're talking about gold and, the pan of gold, and they're going to be hitting full operation soon. The CU talks about it, and let's see, multiply gold. What is it, $5 billion in gold just sitting there, and they're getting ready to go operational? Yeah, at least $5 billion in gold from just one gold mine, and they have the laser mining technology and testing. No debt, about to go into production. I don't know when production's going to start, but if they start pulling tons and tons of gold out of here, you're going to see some pretty crazy press releases hitting out of this company. So definitely keep an eye on their Twitter. Follow them. We'll cover them probably, in the coming months once they start going operational. CAVR, CAVR, love this stock, love the management. And, as you can see, their latest press releases that they've put out, they had that big $60 million acquisition in annual revenue. And they talked about that here. And then I think we covered that in an older video. But then Paragon X to retire 250 million outstanding shares. And then you're looking at the chart, and let's pull it up here. So, it had the big news, ran all the way up. It's always had issues around the 013 area. So, just drawing a line across here, 013 has always been tough. Kind of looks like almost like an inverted head and shoulders. So we'll see what they have coming. So they talked about the revenue. So it's like, what's next? How are they going to keep, communication? What's the next step in this phase? Like, They talked about shareholder value. CEO said it as well. Let's see if I pulled it up here. Yeah, Grant Edwards. Thank you. It's been in Tulsa all week or all day delivering shareholder value. Let's go. So they love to put out news. That was August 16th. So I'm expecting to see something from them soon. So let's keep an eye on that one. HDUP. This is like the stock that I know a lot of people love to hate. So it had big plans, big future. They talked about these big acquisitions, this big merger, and then it just kind of like, I don't know if it didn't happen or nobody really knows. The company went silent. Then they said they were coming out of their quiet period to talk about, a lot of the developments. And that's when the thing ran from 0.035 to 10, 11 cents. And it'll probably do it again. They talked about it and then they hit the news and it's like, oh, okay, faded down. It trades kind of weird though. And then, they talk about here, let's pull this up. So this was back in May. They talked about revenue partnership, and then the U.S. Amateur Sports. HW is leading a group of 3 companies for the acquisition of U.S. land-based casino. So you can see once it gets news, it rips. But right now we're down here like 52-week lows. I mean, that thing almost broke 0.2, and they're just quiet. So I don't know what is with their IR team and what they're doing behind the scenes, but if this is one that you can accumulate and you're like, you can get it around 0.2 cents and just kind of put it in your back pocket, you could probably make some decent cash off this. But remember, not a financial advisor, just giving trade ideas. All we do is paper trade and the whole thing. GMGI, so this was Stock Picks New York, and this is a small cap as far as GMGI. So to me, I don't know what's going on with the company, so I pulled it up here just looking at their Twitter, and it says addition of generating record revenues exceeding 11 million for the first time. They have a lot of progress and they're working on a Meridian Bet merger. But, it's kind of topping out here around this triple top. So if this thing can break into 0.3 and start pushing, 370, 380, should be able to test this area. But you might have a good opportunity if it can't break that to get some a lot lower. So it could be a good trade. I know people love to play small caps. I do as well. I love playing news runners. But just keep an eye on this 0.295, 0.3 area. And then I think he had mentioned one more, which is eBet. So this kind of follows in 2 things. We have sports betting coming up, when you play, especially NFL, baseball, and all of that. But this also kind of classifies in that like trash penny. So, the small caps that are like 5 cents, 6 cents, 7 cents, once they start going like NVOS, which actually I think has a bright future, they've been putting out crazy news, but you accumulate these things at bottom, and then once the quote-unquote small cap pennies start getting hype, they always come after them one after another. But this kind of falls in that gaming category as well, so keep an eye on eBet. AAGC, let's see here. So they had said recently that, revenues are up, profits are up. They have a conference call coming, heading to Florida on Red Eye Saturday, working on another grand opening. The only downside to this company, it's so cheap. I know Zalmi loves it, but it's just not, the most exciting of, stocks that people want to trade, but it is profitable and it is in trips like 0003. So to me, it's, same thing, put some in your back pocket. It's made some pretty strong runs recently. And this is actually the weekly because the daily was just barcoding. But you can see in the past, it's made some pretty strong runs back in 21, 22. So could it do it again? We'll see. Especially when trips get hot, they always come for this one. They're like, oh, well, they're profitable. There's no dilution on AAGC. Let's grab that one. So keep an eye on that one. BOMO. I've never really dug too much into this company. I know, it has a lot of long holders. They've talked about NASDAQ. They've talked about roll-up acquisitions, and it's going to be a huge merger. But then they talked about the reverse split, which to me, personally, I think it needs it because of the OS currently is so big that it's hard to trade, especially in today's environment. But, I'll cover it a little bit more once they get the RS and they start rolling out the plans. But, accumulation looks good. So same thing. It's hard to tell right now, but we'll cover it going forward. CEOS, cover this one a lot. We're like, hey, let's see their financials. They put out a 5-day delay notice, the NTQ, saying that financials were going to be delayed. So it kind of, somebody sold it off to under 03, 03 area, and then it kind of wicked back up in that same range. But, the CEO points here, you can't win a race if you're unwilling to run full speed. FYI, we are the lead horse. SEOS giddy up. And she actually put this out last night. So something is coming. And I want to see their financials. They talked about possibility of having just massive revenue. But, if they amount to anything, government contracts, because they talked about, as far as working with the government or federal or county, and the homeless, she's always on TV. But, Kate, great CEO, she even talked about, running for Congress. So let's see those financials. Let's see what's next up for CEOs. IDVV, great lotto. They talked about AI, talked about a lot of different things, acquisitions, killing debt. But, they said we still anticipate providing an update sometime tomorrow or Monday. And that was July 27th. So I don't know which Monday they're talking about. Hopefully sometime in the coming months. But just looking at their last PR, and, it states here, closing date on or before September 1st, for their acquisition. So, we're in the final week. It could get some anticipation buying, for that merger or acquisition to close. But, I think they need to be a little bit more vocal and just not let shareholders out to dry. SRNW, we covered this one a lot. Back around 18, we said, hey, it's crazy. It's going to be big. They have big share cancellation coming. There is a little hint at an acquisition in the filings as well. And then recently, 4W, George Sharp, agrees to invest $400,000 in Stratos through the purchase of 2 million units from Stratos, each unit to consist of one share, company's common stock, and a warrant, basically saying 30 cents by December 31st and exercisable at 50 cents, in December 26th. Look for an S1 registration for that. And then it says down here, the acquired funds will be used to eliminate debt ahead of an anticipated acquisition and to continue corporate operations. So basically, they want to get this thing pristine, fully cleaned up, and ready to go. So, just looking at the chart, it's probably going to trade in this range of 26 to 30, just because we don't know how long it will take. So if it takes a long time for them to become active again, you know how OTC people are. They're going to sell it and say, okay, I'll buy back in when something comes, and they want to chase it. A lot of people like to accumulate. I'm one of those people that says, okay, so keep an eye on this 026 area. For right now, 30 cents is holding pretty well. So, I know a lot of people are buying the dips, a lot of things coming, but we don't know how long it could be. Could this reach $1 again? Probably. We'll see. Same thing, not a financial advisor. And the same thing, we need timelines, which, I know Sharp doesn't like to give timelines. It happens when it happens. All right, next up, IGBK. Same thing. It's made some pretty strong runs in the past, and I want to point out something right here too. So it looks like IGBK is going to sit down with Buffalo Fireside Chat and touring the California facility. So if you aren't following Buffalo Fireside Chats and also his YouTube as well, check that out. That way you can see facility, you can meet the CEO. So that'll be pretty cool to watch as well. But they talked about $900K for the quarter and annual run rate, and then they're talking about also closing their second cannabis acquisition in August. So keep an eye on that one. SFIO, it's probably one of my favorite stocks. Unfortunately, it just doesn't get a lot of buying pressure anymore. This thing was what, 07 when it was an expert market, or it had its caveat emptor and everybody was excited waiting for that to come off. Finally came off, and then it just kind of died off a little bit, and it really, with these stocks, is all about the anticipation buying. And the person that put this in the list said something about buybacks, and they've talked about doing buybacks for a while. I don't know. I didn't see anything if it had started. So we can always reach out to the company, but they just had their Q2 financial highlights. So $7 million in revenue, gross profit's good, net income's good, liabilities are down a little bit. So it's a very big growing company. They have huge revenue, huge acquisitions. It doesn't deserve to be down at this price range under a penny. This thing should be, with their market cap, much, much higher. Much, much higher. So I love the company, but unfortunately it just doesn't get a lot of quote unquote anticipation buying and so forth. CVAT, so penny stock poopy taint. He keeps talking about this one. Same thing. If you can get this thing down here where it's starting to bottom out, the company They put down here, in collaboration with several research centers, is developing innovative cold plasma technology. Currently, we have achieved a flow-through process of 3 gallons per minute with a target of 10 gallons per minute. And then they talk about diverse applications, technology, water mediation, electronics, medical advancement, cannabis cultivation, agriculture. So there's a lot of things that can go with this company, as far as their patents. So to me, it's gonna make a big run one day. I don't know when, but as you can see just up here, it already has over 03. So if you can get it, 50% discount, it looks pretty good to me. SIPC, I know nothing about this company. Lyco, he put it on here and said, hey, check this out. So I saw they have a Twitter, and then I started looking through it. We remain dedicated to generating substantial revenue on our shareholders. And then they explore potential acquisitions. We're moving ahead with our organic growth. So I like this one. I mean, it's got a good share structure. I've never heard of it. What is it, 300 mil float? It's dirt cheap. So I'm definitely going to keep an eye on this one. I'm going to check their balance sheet as well. But, with acquisitions coming, good share structure, this thing, it could make one of those big runs. UCPA, I think it's more of maybe a chart play, just getting it at bottom due to share structure, because I didn't find too much on it. But it looks good down here if you could get down this range. Same thing, a couple of 100 mil float. GMPR, I know Stock Pop, Angry Red, and a few other people talked about this one. So what does it have? So this has a market cap of like $200,000, and then they're already talking about bringing a huge revenue. So when he actually points out here, added a few down here, news coming. Recent PR stated approved to feed 36,000 U.S. troops, 2 lunches, 1 dinner. My math, yada yada, $1.5 billion monthly. NASDAQ uplist talks, and we talked about costs because it had a big run. But it sounds like news is coming. If you look at their Twitter, they talked about, hey, we're getting debt off the books, we're growing, we're going to continue that. So this thing in trips with, the current share structure is crazy to me. But same thing, these companies, as they grow, they do acquire debt. Debt needs to go. It does provide volatile swings. So HIRU, covered it since eons. It's one of my favorites. As you can see, the chart started to break down, had this gorgeous trend line, and I think it just had a lot to do with OTC as a whole just kind of getting really slow towards the end of August, which I think it's slow every August. And the same thing that I heard back in, February or March. They're like, oh, OTC's dead, it's going to zero. And then GEGI ran 500%, 600%, off bottom. And the same thing, I've seen stocks that hit bottom, including INND, at trip 8, just recently ran to 0015, 0016. So the opportunity is there, just nobody wants to look. It's like, I'd rather get bagged playing 0DT options, which, don't get me wrong, I love playing options, but, if you haven't been planning for a couple of years, you can definitely kill your portfolio. But, looking at HIRU here, starting to look at blow molders to mold 1 gallon. The thing with HIRU's production is, as far as water bottling, and now they're talking about, blowing their own, is it's going to continue growing. Bottled water is not going anywhere. If anything, it's going to ramp up. So the business model is perfect. And then they talked about new customers coming, growth, expansions. It's unfortunate to see the chart break down. But, we really need to, you can see the wicks kind of down here at 0043, where it did have this previous break. So it needs to hold. If not, you're probably looking at 38 range. But, let's see what they can bring out to keep the momentum going. So this is from Bearded Trader. So he had pointed this company out, CAVR. I've never even heard of it. But I'll show you the chart. And it says, exciting news, CAFE is on the brink of securing a lease for a fantastic new 5,000 square foot facility. And they talked about productive week. But just looking at this chart, this thing loves to run. Which was just back in April, it was like 16 cents, hit 20. And then it kind of tapered down in the 016 range to where, it is now. And then, but, look at these wicks, like it's definitely popping up 12 cents, 8 cents. So now, they actually tweeted that after hours. So now we're back down here around bottom. So I'm curious to watch this thing tomorrow to see if it starts getting some gas again. All right, and then next one, BLMS. This thing, it's puzzling to me. So I'm looking at the share price, 0044, okay? Back in April, it was literally $1. So how did it go from $1 to double zeros. So I'm like, okay, it has to be an offering. You know, it got crushed by an offering, dilution. You know, they talk about their revenue, you know, and they've talked about their acquisitions, you know, 23 million, the revenue up year over year for Q1, 2.5 million. And then, so I was like, okay, it's got to be it. So I found it. I was like, okay, there's an offering. But, you know, looking at the offering, 15 cents a share, you know, I talked about their revenue and how much they're going to get from it and their growth. And then I started looking at the warrants. And this was back June 14th. The share price was 0.72. So can someone explain to me how you have warrants, or, you know, you do an offering at 15 cents. The stock was $1 and they're making money, and now it's double zero. So I'm puzzled. I really am. So I'm looking at this. I'm going to dig in this one a little bit deeper, because this is one of those ones where you could grab and this thing just goes ballistic one day. Who knows? But it's puzzling to me. So Bearded Trader, if you're watching, throw it down in the comments what happened to this stock. Another one he had pointed out was ASCC, low float. As you can see, it has pretty big spread, 0.064, 0.028. But they recently put out news as well. So keep that one on your radar. And then, you know, here's the chart. Same thing, low float, but it was trading up around 0.3, so you can kind of get it at a discount now. And then RRT. This was back from June, but the thing with RRT is it likes to run more or less every month. So, you know, what is this? Let's say March, 12 cents, you know, tapered all the way down, and then 12 cents, April, okay, tapered all the way down. Now we're here, okay, so I guess we skip May. And then we have June, 4 cents, okay, tapered all the way down. Now we're under a penny. So it is August. So I don't know what news they're going to put out, but I'm guessing either September or October, this thing's going to go again, just based on the chart. Technical, you know, boom, 12 cents, 8 cents, 12 cents, 4 cents. So I'm going to accumulate this one. I really am. I don't even know what they do, but, you know, I'll look into a little bit more. And they talked about the memorandum of understanding with Black Inclusion, a former joint venture. So look at what the company does a little bit more. I'm very curious to see, you know, what's the next price going to be. So if you get at 01, it pops up into 04, 400%, you know, OTC's back, right? You know, everybody starts throwing fists in the air. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I know it's a long one. We've got to cover a lot of stocks, but same thing. You know, people were saying it was slow. A couple months ago, we had tons of runners, but, you know, people just don't want to put in the effort. They want to look, but we are going to continue hammering it out. So I think we have some good ones next week. You know, I'm definitely going to cover NUGN going forward. CDSG looks really good under 04 if you can get that one. EPAZ, I want to see some big news come out of that one. And then, you know, BLQC looks pretty good too. I want to see what their updates are, and I want to see some concrete updates. I also want to see what ASTA is going to bring. You know, they're talking about their game-changing opportunities. But same thing. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Drop a comment, like on the video. You know, if you have any questions, definitely shoot them down there, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.